Appeals. This meeting, including the public hearing that we will be conducting and our joint meeting with the Foxborough Planning Board, is being broadcasted and recorded by Foxboro Cable Access. So our first order of business is the annual board reorganization. So who wants to be chairman?
I nominate Bernie over it.
I second that.
And who wants to be vice chairman?
I nominate Kurt Hagan.
And that leaves, I'll second that, and that leaves you. I'll nominate you for clerk. Okay, you want to second that?
Second that.
Okay, and it's just the three of us who can vote on this, so all in favor? Okay. The minutes from the May 15th meeting. Anybody besides me get a chance to look at it?
I did.
Okay, any questions at all?
Didn't notice anything.
Okay, motion to
Motion
approve
to
it?
approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've got a couple minutes, well, more than a couple minutes, before 6:35. There are 2 weeks left in the filing period. So far, nothing has come in. Frank Spillane has been working on one, which would be an extension of a non-conforming house on Oak Street. And last week, he said it was 50-50. As for July, this morning, he told me it's 25% as far as July. So he thinks it's more likely than not that that'll be in August. Now, Scott, the zoning decision that you issued on Green Street,
On what street?
the one on Green, on 100 Green Street?
I just, the select board sent me a sign off through their thing, through their permit, the permitize. And what I did is I responded to that application. I told them they need to seek a finding from the board.
Okay,
So I did not make a determination
Okay.
that it was yes or no. I said it needs a finding from the Board of Appeals.
so do you anticipate that'll be in for July, or?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I highly doubt it, but
okay, and then on the 24th, a week from Tuesday, Scott and I have a meeting with Frank Spillane on an issue that he's been looking at and that Eric has been doing some legal research on, and that's relative to I probably shouldn't call it a farm stand because it's technically not a farm stand. An applicant who wants to sell plants, trees, flowers on South Street, properties in the R40 district. It doesn't qualify for an agricultural use because it has less than 5 acres. Depending on what the meeting that Scott and I are going to have with Frank, that will likely come before us in August. So August could be a busy month, and perhaps July will be a month off.
Is that like a home business or like a retail operation?
No. Well, it would be a retail operation, but not a home occupation.
Okay.
So obviously, much more to come if it gets to us. And as I said, Eric's been doing some legal research, and Frank just came up with a case today that it's not on point, but it might give us some thoughts. So,
which I have not been reviewed yet. I apologize.
yeah, I just skimmed it myself. So. I'm going to rely on Eric's judgment. So. I'm a retired attorney. He's an active one. So. Anything else that anybody has?
No.
Vacation schedules?
Yeah.
Not that it has much to do with us, but the Conservation Commission is looking for a new agent again. Nadia didn't stay. So that's been advertised. Applications till June 20th, and take it from there.
Is there a possibility the fellow who had done it before on a part-time basis would do it again? Or?
I've heard conflicts of yes or no, so.
And what is the position?
The conservation agent. So if you know any conservation agents that are looking for a new position, point them this way.
Okay. On the bad news front, as you remember, about a month ago, the land court issued a show cause order in the Oilman litigation,
Oh, okay.
requiring a filing by June 9th as to why the case should not be dismissed for lack of prosecution.
All right.
On June 9th, the Broder's attorney made a filing.
Okay.
So the case is back on. There are a couple of depositions that'll be held in late June or early July.
And what are they seeking? Is anything changed?
Nothing's changed.
Okay.
Nothing's changed. They want oil man to go away. Nothing has changed. There's a status conference in August, I think August 12th. I spoke with Steve Chaplin about it yesterday. He anticipates that the court will probably have a pretrial conference in the fall and then mark it for trial next winter, unless they could settle. But this thing's been going on for 4 years.
At least.
I think
Yeah.
the hearing here was 4 years ago.
It's still unclear to me, like, what settle, like, they don't want money, they don't, like, what are they looking for? Like,
It's been a while since I really looked at the last.
I know
but,
they
yeah.
wanted some, like, trees planted or something, is that what it is?
I mean, they don't want any vehicles to be on the
Right, yeah,
property
okay,
overnight,
okay.
and they were raising noise issues, which
The
were never
camper
before
or
us.
something was there?
Yeah, that
okay.
camper,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
What exactly was filed on the 9th?
It was a,
Is it just like a simple intent to,
like let's just a memorandum from the attorney representing the plaintiffs indicating why the case shouldn't be dismissed, that there had been activity. And these are the only other things that need to be done in order to, complete the discovery phase. So. Okay, the time being 6:35 PM. John Sciarra seeks a special permit pursuant to the code of the town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, Chapter 275 zoning, Section 3.1.6, Table 3-1, Table of Uses, use L5, to construct a detached residential garage with a footprint in excess of 625 square feet. Subject property is located at 14 Lewis Road, Foxborough, Massachusetts, in the R40 Residential and Agricultural District, and is not in any restrictive overlay district. Mr. Sciarra?
Sir,
You want to come up to tables here in front of one of the microphones?
my wife Leanne as well.
Sure.
Sure, come on up.
So, as you can see, there are 5 of us, and that includes Ms. Gray, who is our administrative assistant, and Mr. Shippey, who's the building commissioner. And we all participate, but the only people that can vote on the matter are Lorraine, Kurt, and me. Okay? In order to approve the application, our decision has to be unanimous. And even though we obviously have the application and your supporting materials, anybody who has not seen it, who might be, viewing it, obviously hasn't, so we need you to explain exactly what you're proposing, and we'll probably have questions for you.
Okay.
And some of those questions, again, may be based on information that's already here that we
Okay.
have in front of us, but it's just to get that on the public record. So with that, if you have any
Understood.
questions, please proceed.
So essentially, we bought this property about 5 years ago with the intention of eventually building more storage for ourselves. We've run out of room. We have 2 children. At the end of the day, the 2,000 square feet we have between dirt bikes, tools, my wife's arts and craft hobby, myself, we found that we are now in need of more space. And at this point, we wanted to do something that would be more aesthetic probably to the property and maybe to the neighborhood as far as the project itself went. That led me to the route of the larger size, we call it a garage. I'd say more of a barn type look to it, one single door. Windows to make it more aesthetic, that it looked more fitting to the property. It is 1,200 square feet in size, so it's 30 by 40. But with that being said, dirt bikes, tools, space to work on her hobbies and my own hobbies and park my own vehicles, that was the size that we had chosen. I have also currently pulled a permit to reside window the property as well to match the aesthetics and color of said garage, so that it would all kind of conform and look uniform to the neighborhood.
Can I ask one question? This is the house I'm looking at?
Correct.
Okay. There's an existing two-car garage there now. Are you adding on to that? And
No.
that, or,
It would be a completely separate building
Oh, okay, got
itself
it.
behind that.
okay, got it. All right.
Will you extend the driveway to reach the garage?
I think we're just gonna keep it natural at this point. I only have so much impervious that I can use anyhow. I might redo the driveway that's existing there now, but there isn't really a plan to really drag it back any further.
So the access would just be, what's the ground like there? Is it grass?
Well, the lot that we purchased is more blown away rock and granite than anything else. It seems like when they built it, it just kind of got thrown out into the yard. So it's kind of just overlay of basically fill at this point. I'd go over it with loom aesthetically if this goes through to make a much nicer and cleaner yard, really.
So you can drive your vehicles over it?
It's dirt, but you can drive over it.
Okay.
That's the plan, though, to, at
Just-
this point, there's no plan to put a full
No, the plan
driveway
is to
continuing
plant
into the back?
grass, yeah.
Okay.
Will you run water out to it, or is it, are there any,
As of right now, the only plan for future runnings of anything to it would be electricity. And I was going to lay the conduit, but not put it in now because I really don't have the funds to go through that process right now.
okay?
In your workshop space that you talk about, what, is this like a hobby space or a
So-
business type?
On your side of it,
I do crafts, all sorts of crafts. I'm in kitchen tables, I'm on kitchen counters, I do a lot of stuff for my kids. I do, a lot of baby crafts and stuff. And if you saw my house right now, you would, it's a lot. So it would be, he's gonna graciously give me a corner of there and I can spread out a little bit more, and that way I don't always have to clean up, I can just kind of continue with stuff. My kids do crafts with me, so.
In the crafts you do, is this space going to be used for like some kind of a commercial operation or are these just for you and your friends, these crafts? Or is it-
Pretty much,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I've done a craft fair or two, but it's not a business by any means.
Yep, got it.
I don't have the time for that.
Okay.
I dabble in furniture. I'm a contractor by second trade. There is no plan for any future use other than personal with this. It's for our own use.
You make furniture?
Try.
Yeah, I tried that too, I know, yeah.
There's just not enough space and not enough time.
And the garage is, there isn't a second story, it's just open from,
No, it's one open
okay,
unit front to back.
okay. And it's, I believe it's 16 feet from ground to peak, is that correct?
To eve line. So to peak with a 12 pitch, you're looking at about 20 feet.
About 20 feet?
20, call it 22, I'd say, probably at the end of it.
Would this require a lot of clearing of trees and things like that, or is it open space?
It's open space right now.
Okay.
In the exterior material of the new building, is it like clapboard siding or? what would
So it is a metal-clad building.
Okay.
But once again, aesthetically colored slate to match the hardy board I plan on putting on the front of the house. Vinyl windows, one single roll-up door. Otherwise, like I said, I wanted to keep it kind of confined so that it didn't look out of the norm.
And just out of curiosity, would you be able to see this from the street or the neighbors and that kind of thing?
So we're very high on the hill. The only one who could really see it would be the neighbor directly across the street.
Okay.
Or our neighbor who directly abuts us because it's the way their house is situated on their lot. We actually just found out by surveying that part of their yard is actually ours. So they can see it. And
Okay.
as I said, we've tried to be as polite as possible. We spoke to everyone that and nobody really had any issue
Okay.
that we saw.
And the intent is for the house and the new building to match the exterior, to make it look all consistent?
Yeah, minus the sides and the rear, which will be Cedar Shakes.
Yep, got it. All right.
Did you consider a smaller option, or is this just what you see as needed for your proposal?
So this is what I see needed as my son and daughter both grow. I mean, dirt bikes and ATVs, they take up a lot of room. And I plan to retire hopefully in 8.5 years. So panel saws, things along those lines, they take up a large amount of space. So it would be the space that I would kind of need for future.
Do you intend to garage your vehicles at all in there?
My truck would probably be the only thing if, and that was if I was backed up there and I was working on or unloading something and it just didn't make it out that night.
So primarily for the ATVs and dirt bike
ATVs,
stuff.
yeah.
And if you have equipment in there to do furniture work, you'll need, what, two-phase electric?
Depending upon what you go with, you can, the smaller panel saws, things along those lines. The stuff's gotten so advanced that everything's come down. Almost everything you can get battery in some way,
Batteries, right,
shape, or form at this point.
Scott, any questions?
Not at this time.
Anything else from here? Blair, you've been quiet.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
Okay. Anything else you have to add?
No, I mean, it, just that we wanted to present our case. We wanted to try to be as polite and aesthetic as we could to the neighborhood that we live in. We moved here specifically because of the neighborhood and the uses that we saw around the neighborhood as far as other people had done. So this is kind of where we're at and what we'd like to do.
Close the public hearing? Motion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, who wants to start? Who wants to
So
start?
I drove by, you can't even see behind your house. So- Because I was wondering, because of the size of it, what it would look like, you know, in the neighborhood. So I don't see how it would be seen in that respect. Looks like there's trees in between the properties that would also hide it a bit in terms of appearance-wise, but I was just thinking in terms of the size of it. But otherwise, I don't have any concerns.
Kurt?
Yeah, I drove by as well, and I second what Lorraine just said, but the size is a little bit, is what I'm thinking about. Is that too big?
You know, I looked at some of our recent decisions, and there have been a couple that are not necessarily 1,200, but relatively close. Remember, we did one on Central Street. I think it was in 2024, maybe it was in '23, that was over 1,000.
Okay.
So it's big, but it's also a sizable piece of property.
So the setbacks are
Yeah.
met? Okay.
Yeah, meets all the setbacks, and it's obviously set back fairly far from the street. And notwithstanding the fact that you're higher than most of your neighbors,
Unfortunately, yes.
I think it's not really visible,
Okay.
or it won't be really visible from the street.
And does the new legislation on accessory dwelling units play into any of this at all?
One of the conditions will,
good.
deal with that, but.
So I'm doing my homework about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, as far as, you know, its position, I think, you know, it would be hard to be noticed,
Yeah.
you know. And, you know, my only thought, I guess, would be from the rear where the school is, but sounds like it's in a wooded area, so I don't see it really having much of an
Yeah.
impact.
Eric?
No, you answered all my questions. Actually, Kurt had asked about the siding and how you mentioned you having your house re-sided. Is that the plan?
I've already pulled the permit with the town. I'll be residing it.
And you said that would match what you're doing to the house?
I'm doing slate colored James Hardy in the front, 5-inch lap that will be the same color as the actual garage itself.
Nice, okay.
So if we just go through the criteria for special permit that's in the zoning bylaw. You know, there's no specific community need that is adversely affected, and that's because the property is privately owned, it serves the purposes of you and your family. You're not going to present any traffic or safety issues. There are no adverse impacts on the natural environment. There's going to be some benefit to the town from a tax standpoint. Properties currently adequately served by utilities and public services, so you're not going to impose any additional needs in that regard. And construction and ultimate use of the garage is not going to have any effect on the character or social structure of your neighborhood. And finally, in view of the location, as we just were talking before, in view of the location of the garage on the property, notwithstanding its size, I don't think it's going to have any adverse impact on the character of the neighborhood. So I would be in favor of it. As usual, a number of conditions, and I think a couple of them we're going to have to talk about, but let me go through them. Number one, the proposed garage is a detached structure with dimensions that shall not exceed 30 feet wide by 40 feet long, footprint of 1,200 square feet, and shall not exceed, you said what, 22 feet? 20 height?
Roughly, yes.
Shall not exceed 22 feet in height from grade to the highest point of the structure. Two, the construction and design of the garage are going to be in accordance with the garage plans that you provided to us.
Correct.
And they're going to be attached to the decision. Three, the garage is going to be situated on the property as set forth in the certified plot plan. Four, the garage will be constructed of exterior materials that are of a comparable color as the exterior materials with which the property's existing dwelling is constructed. Are the materials going to be the same? Color is going to be the same.
The color will be the same. There's no way I could afford to put red cedars
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking at over $1,500 a square for red cedars at this point. I couldn't.
So we satisfied with just color?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Five, the garage will be used solely to garage motor vehicles, store personal property, and be used for say craft and woodworking activities?
Sure.
By Mr. and Mrs. Scarra. Do I have your name pronounced correctly?
Close.
Close?
Scarra.
Scarra, I'm sorry.
I'd tell you how they say it in Sicily, but you'd never believe it.
That was my second choice, but, so again, the garage will be used solely to garage motor vehicles and store personal property and be used for the craft and woodworking activities of Mr. and Mrs. Scarra? Okay. Sixth, the garage shall not be used for any business or commercial activities. Seven, the garage shall not be used as or converted into an accessory dwelling unit or otherwise used for residential purposes, except in accordance with the provisions of such bylaws, rules, regulations, and requirements as may be applicable thereto. So I think that answers your question. Eight, electricity service within the garage shall be restricted to single-phase electric service. 9, spotlights, other than those situated on the structure itself, and pole lights on the property that lead to or outside the garage are prohibited. And 10, storage of combustible or hazardous materials within or outside the garage, including gasoline and used motor oil in excess of 5 gallons, is prohibited. Anything else?
Just one question on that, Barney.
Yep.
As far as going back to the accessory dwelling unit, as far as the two-phase electric, with so many vehicles being electric now and having to have two-phase to charge them, or so many tools being electric, are we still?
I think for now, let's keep it that way.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody's telling us that they're going to be charging an electric vehicle there, then we should.
Will we be charging an electric vehicle in there?
Not until 2032, unless the government tells me I have to. I'll be honest with you.
We'll worry about it then if we're still
Okay,
around.
that's fine, yeah.
And there will be no ADU. She already had her chance to come out, and she said no, so.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? No. Scott, anything?
Not at the time, no.
Okay, motion?
Motion to approve the special permit request with conditions as stated.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Okay. So probably within the next week and a half, we'll prepare and have signed a decision. You're going to need to file it in the Registry of Deeds. There is a 20-day appeal period, and that commences when Diana files the decision with the town clerk. So once that has expired, go to Mr. Shippey with your building permit request, but provide him a copy of the filed decision,
The recorded decision
recorded decision.
at the Registry of Deeds,
Yep.
please. It can just be the front page.
No, absolutely.
If you have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
folks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
We tried to extend that as long as we could to get to 7 o'clock. How do you want to do this when we?
I think we just keep our meeting open and don't adjourn it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys want to go over there and have the planning board come over here, or vice versa, because we need the microphones. Are you staying? No? So you guys come up here.
I think we should arm wrestle for it.
Gabby can take over here.
One potato chicken.
We take a recess, so we set up the room.
Yeah. So what do we need to do? Motion to recess?
Yeah, you can take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. We don't need a motion.
Go ahead.
Someone's outside.
Good evening. Welcome to the planning board meeting, June 12th, 2025. This meeting will be broadcast live and recorded for Foxboro Cable Access. We are having a joint meeting tonight with the zoning board of appeals. Mr. Overett?
Well, we have a few,
Catherine, have any?
Yeah, we have a few
Okay.
items.
I didn't know if he needed to open his meeting first.
ours is just continuing.
Okay.
Hey, you're with us.
I guess I'm both, I don't know. This side of me is over here, this side of me.
All right, I'll be very brief since tonight's meeting is only one item. Just to let you know, we did receive the ADU comments from the Attorney General's office. Most of it we were expecting. The only thing that we were not really expecting was that we now cannot require a special permit for ADUs on nonconforming structures that would exacerbate that nonconformity. Seems a little bit unfair, but we can't do, without the AG's blessing, so we'll have to take that one back to town meeting. Master plan, we had a good session two sessions the first time around. Hopefully, we'll get some more feedback. We're going to do the same thing again on June 24th, the exact same type of meeting. So anybody who attended one already, it'll be the same type. Then we're going to be doing community meeting for the Neponset Avenue Vision on July 8th at 6:30 p.m. Workshop on growth nodes, which are the areas where the town likes to concentrate its growth in order to preserve land uses elsewhere. And that workshop's going to be on July 29th at 7 p.m. We're going to have a forum on senior housing needs August 26th at 3:45 p.m. And finally, a September planning workshop, which will incorporate a lot of the feedback that we've received through the master plan process already. That will take place September 9th at 7 p.m. All of these are going to be held at the new community center, so many, many thanks to my peers over there for making it happen. We were just approved for a grant through the Mass Gaming Commission for nearly $500,000, $497,500. This is the continuing regional tourism grant, so we'll be working closely with our partners and our consultant to try to optimize visibility for our project and the local businesses around here in advance of the World Cup. I think those are all the big items. So if you have any other questions about anything that's on my planner's report, just let me know.
I just want to make a comment in follow-up what Catherine said about the ADU bylaw. Most of the Attorney General's comments and disapprovals were based on regulations that the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities adopted. And those regulations were not adopted for another, 2 or 3 months
Right.
after town meeting. And I've looked at some of the AG's decisions relative to what other towns have been doing, and they're fairly consistent with how they treated us, which again is just basing determination on what housing and livable communities did, and again, in most cases, after the various towns adopted their bylaws. So Catherine didn't show the indignation that I felt. Maybe she's cooled off since then, but I think she felt the same way at the time. What really concerns me about the decision on non-conforming structures is that if you read that to its logical conclusion, the AG is basically saying you can't even grant a variance if one is necessary. So that's, again, reading something that I find to be illogical to its logical conclusion. Now, how I'm going to deal with it, I don't know, but we'll come up with something.
Being a little after 7:05 p.m., continued public hearing, site plan review, special permit, 0 East Belcher Road.
I'm sorry, before we get to that, we have action items. We have an A&R plan to approve. You have the plan in front of you. I apologize, we received them today. I asked for smaller plans. This is for the old Wallamallapog subdivision that we approved a couple years ago, last year. I don't know.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was very, very large lots that we created. The ownership, the trustees that own this property have decided that they're going to create an open space parcel in the rear and donate it to the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission has looked at it, and because it abuts conservation land, they would like to acquire that. So they will receive it. So the plan is that the lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2, are going to remain buildable, that has all the frontage and the area that's necessary. But then they're creating parcel A to donate to the Conservation Commission.
Right.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the A&R plan for Old
Walla Mullapog.
Wallamalapog.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
The Mylar plans are on the table, so before you leave, please sign it.
Now you can.
No.
No, we can't. Not yet.
The other item on the agenda is a request to endorse the plans for Maple Crest Farm. This is the North Street subdivision.
Select board.
The select board, has to issue a name for the subdivision. They haven't done that. It's scheduled in 2 weeks, the meeting. So Bay Colony would like to wait to have the plans with the street name. So they like to wait until 2 weeks, but we're not meeting for another month. So they wanted to get a vote from you guys that, you would endorse the plans. And then after the plans are printed, you can come to the office and sign them.
Anybody on board have a comment with this? Not all good?
Make a motion to endorse the plans for Maple Crest Farm subdivision.
I'd second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the minutes, I sent them out yesterday for the past 2 meetings.
Is everyone good?
I'm cool.
Yep.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 24th, 2025 and May 22nd, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now, Gabby?
Sorry.
She's a taskmaster.
Yes. It being a little after 7:05 PM, continued public hearing, site plan review, special permit, 0 East Belcher Road, contractor yard, J. Cook Realty LLC. This will be a joint meeting with the ZBA.
So Mr. Buckley isn't available to represent anybody for this, so he has asked for a continuance to July 10th. So we will continue the public hearing and then basically punt it back to zoning board to talk about the ongoing issues with the agreement.
And that's cool, but is there, since we're all here, is there anything, I just wanted to say, I'm totally cool with that draft, so long as we get the numbers.
You mean as far as the draft conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we, why don't you continue?
Yeah, I'll
We have to
continue
Continue
it.
it.
I'll make a motion.
So you need to continue it to July 10th,
Is that our next meeting?
7:10.
I make a motion to continue the public hearing, site plan review, special permit, 0 East Belcher Road, contractor yard, J. Cook Realty LLC to July 10th at 7:10 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Diane, I will not be available that night.
Slacker. We can just
So
listen to
noted.
them, correct?
Sorry?
We cannot participate in the discussion, correct?
Correct.
Well, it's not a public hearing, what the zoning board's doing. It's a discussion of an agreement for judgment, so it's open, it's public, so.
But as
Yeah,
a
this is one of
board,
our-
we cannot comment.
We can close our meeting.
Yes, actually, we can close our meeting.
Make a motion. Make a motion to close the planning board meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Should we stay?
I remember the public
Yes.
Now I need to
remember-
go back. In the cable lady.
Should have just stayed at
Has anyone, Barney, have you been to the property lately?
Blair has.
Blair has.
Oh, love to hear an update.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yes.
So now
So,
you can just say we're back.
okay, so the zoning board is
Back, folks.
Yes.
back in session, okay. So what I want to do is just update, actually, I have to update these guys as well, as you, as to what's happened, not just since our last meeting, but also since, I met with you a couple weeks ago. So the week after I met with the planning board, or I attended your meeting, Blair and our attorney met on the premises with Mr. Cook and his attorney. And I'll let Blair, in a few minutes, explain what he saw and didn't see. But what I want to talk about is where I think things are going right now. Based on what transpired in Blair's and our attorney's, meeting, I felt that maybe the best way to handle the matter is to, I don't know whether we're going to call it an amendment to the agreement for judgment or a supplement to the agreement for judgment, but some document that is going to do three things. Is number one, it's going to be a little bit more specific as to the nature of Mr. Cook's towing business. And the impression that I've been given from both, Blair's meeting at the premises, from other conversations that we've had with his attorney, and from what I've heard at your meetings, is that the lot that you're concerned with, he wants to utilize that as part and parcel of his towing business. Number two is to, in relation to what that specificity of the business is, what specific items of personal property does he need to conduct that business? What trucks does he need? What trailers does he need? What forklifts? What dumpsters? What other items of property does he specifically need? So in other words, we'll pare this list down to those items that are germane to that business, inherent in that business, and everything else would need to go.
Including the forklift.
Well, some of the forklifts, and some of the dumpsters, and hopefully a lot of the tires. But number three would be when he transports something to that property, how long is it going to remain on the property? As Blair will indicate, he's indicated to us when he brings something to the property, he does something with it, and then he disposes of it. How long is that, whatever it is that he tows there, going to remain on the property? And how many of those items can remain on the property at any one time?
Are you specifically talking about the corner parcel there?
The entire parcel.
The entire
The entire
parcel.
parcel. When you are referring to the corner parcel, this was
Right.
communication with Jeff and me, is the lot that
Right.
the planning board is concerned with. So it would be the entire premises. So our attorney contacted Cook's attorney and heard back from him yesterday, and he felt that was a good approach. And what we're going to now do is try to negotiate an amended or supplemental agreement. I've got something that we're going to have to make a decision on a little bit later, this evening, hopefully not too late. But that's pretty much where we are, right now. Go ahead, Tracy.
Why, this man is in violation of zoning bylaws in the town, and is resulted in our town having to spend money on town council services. Why are we bending over backwards?
It's a good point, but I think the reason we are, I don't want to say the reason we're bending over the backwards, the reason we have town council involved is we rendered a decision upholding Mr. Shippey's initial cease and desist order, and he appealed it. So we're in court. So town council becomes involved.
But why, I don't understand why this man, this company has never given any indication he's going to follow any letter of the law. I just don't understand why he appealed it, great, let's go to court and get a verdict, because it's going to be in our favor.
Well, we do have a verdict. That's what the agreement for judgment is. It is a verdict. But what I wanted to avoid was, and we talked about it and we agreed, was really litigating it because that would be 2 or 3 years down the road and X amount of additional dollars that we would have to spend. And then we're still in the position where he's going to have to follow the court order. So 4 or 5 years from now,
Yeah.
where we are today. This has been going on since 2009. Bill Casparo, as the building commissioner, issued orders that are comparable to what Scott did, and Bill never followed through on it for reasons that I understand. I won't get into them. They're reasonable. None of Bill's successors did anything until Scott took the reign. Scott issued an order. We upheld it after trying to work with the guy for a year, and he appealed, which we expected. I sat down with, after we discussed it with town council and made a decision that the best course of action would be to try to, achieve an agreement with him, which again is a court order at this point in time. I sat down before we signed the papers, I sat down with Paige Duncan, town manager, and got her okay on that too. So again, I think that this is the appropriate way for us to handle it. Let me put it this way. I'm not naive enough to believe that we're going to solve all the problems, but I'm also not inclined to
Can drag this out.
to drag it out any longer than we have to.
So if all these things are put into place and he doesn't comply, are we back in court? Or
Then
is-
we'd have to go to court to get an order for the court to say that he's in contempt.
And then,
Because again, it's a verdict of the court. It's a decision of the court. And whether we call it an amendment or a supplement, it's going to be something that's filed in court as well.
But do we now have some enforcement mechanism where we can put him into receivership if he doesn't comply?
Yeah.
But so do we have to go to court for that again? or
We'd have to
go-
go to court to get an order for that, yes.
I know I've asked a question at another meeting. We couldn't mandate a bond? I know I asked that. and
I think Catherine spoke with town council about it, didn't she?
I did, yes. The town council indicated that would not be a possibility in this proceeding.
Can I just, Catherine and I had actually talked about that a little bit, and, when we, under the subdivision rules and regs, or under the bylaws, we can impose it, but we usually give our applicants the option, so I was just thinking of it that way. I mean, it's not necessarily a hard and fast imposition, the way it's done. You don't have to, put up a bond. You can just say you're gonna do all the work up front. You've got the choice. So, I mean, I was a little surprised by that, for that reason. I mean, the way, there are different opportunities for any applicant to handle that matter, so.
Well, actually, for special permit site plans, it's not optional. It is a bond that has to be submitted and has to be in place before we approve the building permit for the project. It's the subdivisions that is, they can put all the money and do all the work ahead of time.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
So we couldn't ask him to put up a bond?
yeah.
If he's committing to something from court order, he should have no issue putting up a bond.
What our town council said, that we were limited to, paying for its removal ourselves and then taking it out via a lien of some sort.
We'll never get it.
And there's wording in the agreement that would allow us to do that. To seize the property and.
Is that how it worked at Selsum's? We had to pay for that ourselves?
I don't remember. I don't, that wasn't before this board, so I just don't remember
Yeah.
how the town did it.
Marty, you said, Mr. Cook said he's gonna, anything he tow in, he would work on and then dispose
Well,
of.
let Blair,
Try to figure out what this disposal.
let Blair talk about he and Attorney Chaplin's great adventure.
Yes. So the four of us spent a considerable amount of time on May 30th walking the property once again, like we did earlier in May. I would say that we were a little more thorough this time around. We did what most gymnasts probably wouldn't do by climbing up and around and through and over. It took the better part of almost 4 hours. So going through that, we learned an awful lot about Mr. Cook's business. To kind of a high-level summary of that, the more we really went into all of the different items on that property, the less it became apparent to me that I thought it was a towing business, which led us into asking a lot more questions. It appeared that, according to Mr. Cook, that over the last few years, he did a lot of reconditioning of vehicles. He would take in vehicles from other commercial entities and prepare them for shipment out of the country, where he would take them down to Providence. They would put them on boats, and a lot of them would go to the Caribbean, let's say, or islands and that sort of thing. Over the last few years, a lot of that has abruptly gone away, and which has kind of, limited the amount of equipment that he can turn over. So some of that has remained on the property. A lot of those dump trucks, that sort of stuff used to just automatically be turned over in a matter of weeks, if not months. And, you would tow them theoretically down to Providence. They'd pick them up with a crane, off they go. So as we continued through the list of vehicles that were there, having seen inspection decals from, the past 10 years, some of that was kind of apparent. There was certainly a number of vehicles on the property that fit that description, where they wouldn't necessarily be great around here, but, if you were sending them off to a Caribbean island somewhere, they would fit that. Then again, they're certainly, and I won't, I'm certainly not naive enough to think that everything on the property fits that, but there also, there's a considerable amount of equipment and vehicles that don't fit that description whatsoever. And to be honest with you, I think that, we had gone, I believe it was on the 12th, I think, of May, that when we had been there. We were back there on May 30th. There were some items missing that weren't there the first time around. So from that perspective, there was some improvement. I would have liked to have seen more improvement. But it did look as though quite a few of those items had gone. Now, unless he goes after it a little harder than he has been, I don't believe that he will make the August 31st deadline. I'm not naive enough to think that at that current rate that he'll get there. But that's not for me at this point. If he puts his heart to it, maybe he can. I don't know.
So besides the towing, he's also doing repairs.
Yeah, I think the towing piece of it comes from the vehicles that he's taking in and moving out. I think that's we all think of towing as you break down on the side of the highway, and that was brought up to Mr. Cook, and Mr. Cook vehemently said that, those days are long gone. He has no desire to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go tow a vehicle off the side of the highway. That's not what he does.
Can I interrupt? I had gathered that the crux of the business, such as it might be, was moving pieces of heavy equipment around for other operators.
Yes.
But that doesn't seem to be the case, correct?
No.
Or is that considered towing? I mean,
Well, he'll tow it from,
Yeah.
point A to
Right.
his yard. Somebody will call him up and say, I want to get rid of this, and he'll tow it there.
Well,
I would, in my opinion, I would say it's more of a trucking business than it is a towing business, right?
yes.
Right, my definition of towing is it's broke down somewhere, you're going to pick it up and drag it to
dealer
wherever,
somewhere,
to
yeah.
dealer or wherever it's going. Where there's so many trailers on the property and so many fifth-wheel tractors and big and large trucks, it's more of a trucking operation. Canisters.
To your knowledge, if really the nuts and bolts of the business is bringing in aged equipment or, and trying to recondition it and roll it, is any of that, is that in partnership with his tenant? Or is that just him, or?
That I cannot answer. I don't have an answer to
Is there
that.
any issues, like booby traps there in dealing with a tenant on that property?
I mean, the automotive business, the motor repair business that at least one of his tenants is doing is a legitimate business there. I mean, that's permissible under the bylaw. You know, what I find interesting is when we first started the hearing, and correct me if you think this is wrong, his attorney implied to us that your car breaks down, and Mr. Cook tows it there. Jeff Lovely said that explicitly at one of the hearing sessions. When we met most recently, this board met most recently with Mr. Cook and his attorney, I asked him about, his business is called Towing and Transport. I asked him about the transport business. And he said he doesn't engage in that. That's a minimal part of his business. So,
The story evolves
Well,
yeah,
based
he's-
on what.
other
He's
than-
still transporting stuff. And again, I'm trying to get focused back on what we need to worry about. And I hadn't really envisioned that the corner parcel could be like a holding bin for stuff, you know, that you could hold, and when you get around to fixing it up and taking it down to Providence, that's cool, you know? I kind of envisioned that as what they talked about, what Bill Buckley talked about, which was we're gonna park our trailers in there, and maybe some other, you know, equipment, you know, that is used in that
Directly
process.
related to the
Directly
business.
related to that process. So,
I think that has to be clarified at your hearing.
yeah, no, well, I'm just saying, because I know you guys need this, you know, to make the whole plan work.
Yeah.
So you know, and the other thing I was thinking of when you were talking about how it would work in response to your question, Kurt, about, you know, we'd have to go back to court, you know, and get that order. So we're looking at conditions, and we're trying to condition a decision to preclude anything like that. But really, now I'm thinking, does that process control everything? It does.
I mean, ideally, we reach an agreement with him within the next month that covers the bases that, you know, I mentioned before. I see it as incorporating. Now, there may be some wordsmithing necessary, and there may be things that need to be added to and subtracted, but I see it incorporating much of what I prepared for you.
So really.
And then theoretically, you could, in issuing your special permit, the conditions that you impose would be essentially the agreement for judgment. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Or the amended agreement, or whatever we're going to call it. You know, the conditions that are imposed, or the schedule that's imposed there.
Has anybody asked this gentleman for business records proving what he did in terms of bringing him to Providence and putting him on a ship? And my second question is has he given us documentation that business has picked back up? Because it's like my daughter when she was a teenager. He's changing the story to serve his purpose. And here's the thing, Barney, I want to give this board as much, you know, backing as you all need on this one. But at some point, somebody's got to call this.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we're all going to be dead and buried, and this is still going to be going on. And that is just, I mean, the fact that Mr. Cook can show his face in this town, it's kind of scary.
I think, you know, looking for those business records really is beyond what we can do as a board. I mean, I certainly wouldn't even venture there, you know, without a legal opinion that I was comfortable with.
Yeah, understood.
But
I do have a question as it relates to what's being asked of this body, though. If the underlying use is changed, what does that do to the request being made for planning board? Like, obviously, it's still going to serve as an accessory use to, but now the underlying use of that parcel might be changing from, you know, the towing business to a trucking business. Is there any, like, does the request of the planning board need to be withdrawn and changed somehow? Can it stand as is because it's still serving as an accessory use? This is just, I mean, I obviously I can follow up myself. I'm just wondering if there's precedent for this so that I know what we need to do.
I don't think you need to change. You know, again, our focus has always been, this is a junkyard. It's an auto graveyard. And what he's asking you is for site plan approval and a special permit to allow him to conduct what he's been conducting there for a number of years. So I don't think you need to change.
Okay.
You know, again, I think our ultimate purpose is the overall purpose is to clean the place up
Right, right.
and have in place the various conditions that are necessary to ideally keep it clean.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll just review just to make sure that it doesn't specifically reference the underlying use anywhere in it, because if so, there might need to be a modification or a withdrawal or something. I agree with you. Substantially, what the planning board is requested to do is much the same. It's just I don't want us to be signing off on something where there's an error of some sort.
What are your thoughts, Barney, on, you talked about putting a time frame on when he brings something onto the property, how long it can stay there? What is the board's thoughts?
How do you police that?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Well, the one way to police it is we do have the ability to inspect the property.
Can we put a max number of vehicles he can have on the property at any one time?
That's what I'd like to do. That's what I would like to do.
And if he brings in a new one and it puts him over the edge, he's got to get one out.
And I think, what I did as far as the conditions, lays it out to do that. It's just a question of how many.
Can I just ask, in your discussions, Blair, not that you necessarily would be getting into that kind of specifics, but I'm just wondering, because it's been a while since, 2 weeks? How long has it been since we had that last
It
session?
was the 12th, so when we walked the site, it was the 12th.
Okay, so, I mean, it was kind of my understanding that we were going to be getting some numbers, like this is what we want to put on that parcel. Did that come up at all?
No, he was, overall, as I said before, there was some improvement there, but it's negligible. There was, to your point, there was a vehicle there that, a truck, a fifth-wheel truck that was not there before, that was being ready to ship out, because I had noticed that on the parcel that you guys are looking at, up in the corner, and I said that, that's a new one. We're supposed to be bringing things out of here, and here's a truck that I don't remember seeing the last time. And that was one that had been prepped and was getting ready to leave. I don't know, it was tucked up in the corner, so I don't know if it's there today. But that was, and that kind of was the caveat to getting into the discussion about what is really going on as more of a, turning it over for shipping sort of trucking business as opposed to a towing business. So that was a big part of that conversation at the point. But yeah, I wish I had more information.
I need a clarification on the towing. So what he's towing is not for the general public.
It doesn't appear so.
It's only for something that
Right.
somebody is getting rid of, and
He's bringing it in and essentially turning it over.
so now he's a salvage yard.
Yeah, or prep, or he's
leave his
either
closets out of
preparing them for shipment, like we had gotten into the new truck that was in the corner. So there are certainly requirements when you go to put something on a ship. It can only have 25 gallons of fuel in it, and so he's doing a lot of that type of work to get something. If say a Stop and Shop supermarket or a truck, some company wants to get rid of their trucks, a lot of times they will sell them to Haiti or Dominican Republic, whatever, to at a very discounted rate. So essentially, just taking them in and prepping them to make sure that they don't have too much fuel in them, that they meet whatever specifications they need to meet.
Not stripping things down.
No, it doesn't appear so. It appears that he's hauling them in, doing what he needs to do with them. They sit up in the corner, and he's waiting on a call from the shipyard to truck it down there, and they pick it, and it's gone. And he alluded to the fact that used to be a really large part of his business, and over the last couple of years, that dried up and is now coming back around.
So what has his business been during that dried up period?
Yeah.
Collecting more.
There were a lot of things back there as we were really getting into the minutia of the list. I mean, there are engines that are salvage price, probably worth $3,000 or $4,000, and they're still packed up in their shipping crates. That the way that they're moved by forklifts and whatnot. So, and we looked at them, and you wouldn't take that engine today and put it in a truck, But there's some salvageable parts, the block, there are pieces to it, and I think that there's, and again, my opinion from dealing with a lot of this stuff over the years is that, he sees there's $3,500 sitting there, and it may not be tomorrow that he gets rid of it, but, it'll be just his luck to get rid of it tomorrow, and a month from now, someone comes by looking for that exact item.
You had mentioned that, the way I interpreted it, almost like he was acting as an intermediary for sellers
Yes.
to prepare their equipment or
Sure.
whatever it is he's selling. But clearly, I mean, he's the owner of everything there. Pretty much, right?
Yeah, I would say the majority of it.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say everything, but like that truck that was up in the corner, I don't believe he owns that,
Yeah.
but
Okay. So the question
Vast
is then,
majority.
does that make a difference? In whether he is acquiring, and that would, of course, require a whole nother level of policing and enforcement, but I just wondered if that makes a difference.
Well, certainly on the list that he gave us, whenever, a number of the items are referenced as customers, and based on the meeting we had with him I guess it was last month, all that stuff has to go, and he understands that stuff has to go. But I think your point is, when he brings something on the property in the future, is it his, or is it?
Well, I think,
Yeah.
practically speaking,
Right.
Yeah.
you would think that would make a difference.
And I think that's what plays into the timeline, right? You say, well, you have 6 weeks
Right.
from the time it comes on the property to the time it leaves the property.
And you can't have more than X number of those
I think that's
items
the
on the
one,
property.
that's the way we need to do it, because we can't police, something comes in on one date and doesn't go out within 6 weeks, but if there's more, Scott can more easily see, the
Right.
max is 20 and he's got 25.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's also, there's,
Or Chip's towing, or Chip's transport, I'm sorry, not towing. What do we have for conditions on his permit?
Where's that?
He's the one that moves cars to and from Florida? He's over on East Street?
Two Summer Street.
Summer Street,
okay.
yeah. Summer Street.
I have no idea.
There's a pretty significant parallel right now with what we're discussing, what he's doing,
Uh-huh.
Cars don't stay
with the
there.
fact that you call Chips and say, I'm going to Florida in November, pick up my car, take it down, bring it back in May, I come and get it. I think there's, Gabby, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's a timeline that he can have.
I can't recall, it's been a
Okay. There might
very
be
long
something we'll
time,
look
but
into.
I can look up the,
Okay.
That was the one that we worried
I think
about.
that was more like when it got there, the people came and got it right away. It's like picking up your luggage at the airport.
Right, but I'm
I
just
don't
saying,
think
if we
things
have
stay
something
there.
in there,
Well, they probably have some rule, like if it stays there more than 60 or 90
You're paying-
days, they sell it or do
well,
something.
either that or you charge
Whatever.
a storage fee.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if there's anything in there that we could probably
good
borrow.
point.
Yeah, I don't recall any restrictions on
I just
time.
remember just worried about traffic on the road.
Traffic and noise was the big issues.
It might be something.
but if
could be.
if he's hauling items in and hauling them back out again, there's bill of lading for all of that. But none of those vehicles coming in are road legal.
Right.
So he's got a bill of lading saying when he hauled it in, he'll have one when he hauls it out. So there is a paper trail there, should that ever need to be enforced from a timeline perspective. You'll easily, be able
But I think
to.
Tracy's point is
Rely on
good.
him for a paper trail.
Right.
It's difficult to enforce from a timeline,
Right.
but as far as numbers of vehicles,
We can all count.
different issue, yeah.
Was the washing
I
machine still there?
I could still put in a
What's that?
timeline in whatever the
Yes, it was.
conditions are, but
Does it make a difference to you if he's going to be bringing stuff in to be held for a period of time? Make a difference to you where it's held on the property, where it actually ends up on the property?
I don't know if we can,
Well, the only parcel that we have any jurisdiction
Well,
on
yeah,
is 0, which is going to be a fenced lot. So
Is that
unless we're
required to be
invited to
fenced?
walk inside the fence,
That's what we were told.
we can't see. But I'm just saying, he can put anything wherever he wants on the inside of the fence. I don't think we can control that.
But that's not my
One thing I
point.
would like to,
does it make, to me personally, no. To me as a zoning board member, no. I don't know about the others, but again, I'm looking at it
Because personally-
as the entire
Personally, I
property.
don't want it on the corner
Yeah.
lot, but that would be my preference.
Yeah.
So that's just.
Again, there's more property there. My concern would be, I guess there are two concerns. You got more property, there's more room for stuff to be kept, but also it's more compact on the 24 property. So even if he just has 3 or 4 vehicles there plus his own, it gets to look more junky, so.
If I remember too, the grade of that corner lot is coming up, right? So there
Coming
was
up about 4 feet.
4 feet, so that raises the profile above whatever you might see with a fence,
Well,
but,
he's still gonna be 4 or 5 feet above and below the shoulder of the road.
right.
So that and a fence, I think you're still not gonna be able to see in there, which
Not
would be a
much.
huge plus.
Absolutely, yeah.
Barney, I have a question maybe for both yourself and Scott. Do we have any teeth, or do you have any teeth at this point in time with what is being stored up on the side of the road? Because when we walked the site, he had the 2 trailers up there tight against his property. 2 days ago, there was 3 trailers and a flatbed
On the road.
on the road.
That's town property.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, that's within the right of way.
That's what brought Scott into this from the first.
Place, yeah.
When Leah Gibson
Yes.
was,
Yeah.
when
2
Leah
days ago,
Gibson was
Scott,
select
4
board chairman.
4 things.
That's in the right of way, and I've mentioned that to his attorney, that stuff has to go immediately,
Okay.
effectively. But it's already in litigation right now.
Okay.
So,
Well, because he's adding to it, that's why I brought it up.
oh, yeah. You know that, and I know that.
Is that some kind of a safety hazard that the police can
Yes.
get involved with or
Well,
something?
when you've got a 90-degree turn right there and you've got a
Right.
flatbed parked
I
on the
know.
corner and it's
know.
windshield height, if you miss that corner, you're gonna get decapitated, so.
If it's that dangerous and we're in litigation, is there some type of injunctive relief we can seek in the current action?
It's within the town's right of way. I'm not so sure that you even need to go that far.
I think we could call the chief.
You're within the right of way.
Yeah.
If this was under my purview, I would call the chief of police and handle it. I wouldn't even, it's within the right of way. And the town has has all jurisdiction over anything within the right of way, period. So,
You want to call Chief Grace? and talk to him?
Oh, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
yeah, I would say between Chris Gallagher and the chief that,
I'll make them both aware.
I mean, this is part of the ongoing issue, too. He's still operating a business while allegedly trying to correct all this, but that's not
Yeah.
progressing, clearly.
But it was vehicles in the right of way that first got Scott involved in this.
Okay.
Well, yes and no, but yes. That triggered me to do a site visit and speak to Mr. Cook himself. And the lack of response then triggered my enforcement.
Well, we're supposed to be putting rocks up there, we could do that.
That was part of
The judge,
Mr. Buckley's
right,
proposal of putting boulders to prevent it,
For our proposal.
right.
so.
I think that that was something that was discussed at the meeting with Mr. Buckley and the Assistant DPW Director, Kevin Davis. So I think it was Lance still. The Boulder situation, and they were going to inquire from Chris Gallagher whether or not the town would like that. My understanding is that Chris said no to the boulders.
because you could consider that to be a man-made hazard.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So you have to understand the liability issues with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Stack of hay bales.
Nice
Barney, it's all
guardrail.
on you.
Put up a guardrail right there.
would be nice.
Right, guardrail.
Not to belabor this, but the last thing I want to do is kind of make things harder for this process. But my inclination is to kind of try and hold fast on the corner parcel in terms of the conditions and what we're going to allow there. Is that going to be a problem?
I mean, personally, Jeff, I think these conditions really should hold true for both parcels.
Well,
So I don't think it's going to make it more difficult.
okay.
So what's the next steps, Barney?
So next step, and this is for the board to decide. So again, Steve Chaplin and Brian Almeida have been in contact about negotiating. And Steve asked me yesterday if it would be advisable for us to have a special meeting of the board to talk about quote-unquote parameters of what we want to see. Timing is obviously an issue. I'm not around next week, and I know early in July you're gone, and you're gone, and you're gone. So really, the only time to have a special meeting would be, I think, June 24 or 25.
I'll be here.
And the alternative to that is to throw everything on Blair's shoulders and have Blair work with Steve alone. But what we could do, if either the 24th or 25th is conducive.
June 24th, a select board meeting.
Select board.
Thursday. Would you want to keep it on Thursday? I could probably do the 26th.
Steve can't make it, and Scott's away.
I don't know, just, AdCom still meet on Wednesdays?
AdCom
Do-
should be out for the summer.
School
Yeah.
committee, anybody meet on Wednesdays? Anybody know?
I don't think so either.
I think school committee's Monday.
Tuesday,
We
every
can
other
check
Tuesday.
on the 25th.
Okay. That okay for you, Eric?
And actually, in the
It's
summer,
not right now.
probably meeting anyway.
Good point.
What time were we talking?
Probably 7 o'clock. We could do it earlier. if it's
Does it have to be a night meeting?
No,
Is it something we could do in the day in one of the conference rooms?
if it's good for everybody.
Yeah, it's fine by me.
Well, we have
I
to,
could make
no, we
that
have to
work.
still have the,
Public hearing.
what we would be doing, Diana, would be calling a special meeting
Well, you said, yeah.
and then go into executive session fairly quickly after that.
Well, I mean, most of the time in the day, this is actually not used much either.
Correct.
I mean, I can do 7:30 to be safe on Wednesday, or earlier in the day.
Okay. Lorraine?
I could do earlier in the day or 7:30 also.
Either way is fine with me.
What's the date?
25?
25th,
Yeah,
Wednesday?
Wednesday?
Yeah, I can, and I'm wide open.
See, these are the only, working people.
I take offense to that.
Hey, Catherine.
She left. She left like.
I'm just talking about the
I
board.
know, I'm calling her because he's.
The rest of us are all, gainfully retired.
It's good to have goals.
So I'll
I'll check with Katie tomorrow and see.
okay. So what we would do would be a special,
I prefer earlier.
I'm good anytime.
Yeah, early's good for me, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm wide open that day, so anytime is fine.
And I say early, I mean, like afternoon is okay, but not. Not after 4. I'd need to be kind of done by 4:30 at the latest.
Okay.
That helps.
You could do like a 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
Are we
that's
good?
what we
Yeah,
do.
can we vote?
Yeah, our meeting was, sounds good, like 40
All right,
minutes.
so why don't
Well,
we,
I'd have to see if Katie and the cable people have people available.
I figure we'll meet on the
25th.
25th.
See ya,
so.
Tom.
Point.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for you guys, or?
No, we're gonna sign our stuff and leave.
Okay, we're going to have a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, fellows. Thank you. Well, actually.